Viewers, getting some big breaking coming in. A very strong message has been sent to the UK. I repeat, a very strong message has been sent to the UK. India has reviewed the security for UK diplomats. The security of UK High Commission has been reduced. Additional security courtesy has been withdrawn, viewers. Getting these back-to-back details coming in right now, where we are learning that India has gone ahead, reviewed the security for UK diplomats, and India is sending a very, very strong message to the UK. Now remember, this is a response coming in. I repeat, this is the response coming in to after the Khalistani London attack, which happened in London at the India High Commission. After we saw that the pro-Khalistan supporters took down the Indian flag of the High Commission in London, we're seeing that this kind of big response has come in. Let's go to our senior executive editor, Abhishek Kapoor, to help us understand what India's message is. A big message being sent to the UK from India. Abhishek.
Well, absolutely. That, on the face of it, that's how it is. Remember, despite our protestations, despite advanced warning that there is a security situation around the Indian High Commission, still the incident where these separatist Khalistanis and those elements could come in and compromise the security of not just the Indian High Commission building itself, but even the diplomatic staff. At least 2 were injured. So I think India decided that let's review what we get in return and how we take care of the security of diplomatic corps in India. So I think this is a general review beginning with, of course, the United Kingdom High Commission. And we are seeing these pictures where at least those barricades have been removed. But there is a general review going on where the agencies believe that while our diplomats face a considerable amount of threat in Western capitals, for example, specifically in Europe, the diplomats here don't have any security situation around them. So in that sense, can we have a little more less intrusive, less visible security? So that review is happening, beginning with the United Kingdom. We have seen those pictures coming in where non-security related measures are also going to be under review. And obviously, it's a strong message to the British because the response from their side was not commensurate with the kind of threat our establishment, our diplomatic presence there has felt, both in terms of the physical properties and, of course, the physical safety and well-being of our diplomats and our human resources. And we saw this latest episode where the Sikhs for Justice and other separatists came around and compromised the security of our High Commission there. Obviously, we are upset, and that is the reason why we had called in the Deputy High Commissioner of United Kingdom and issued the démarche, as also, of course, to the American side for what happened in San Francisco. There is another protest planned by Sikhs for Justice again in London, and about which adequate warning has been given to the British side. That's on Wednesday, which is today, in fact, later in the day, because the Greenwich Mean Time is 5.5 hours after us, and we are closely watching. That's what we are being told as to how the British security establishment responds this time when these protests happen, whether more and adequate security measures are put in place, and the Scotland Yard, for example, or the London Metropolitan Police, whichever has the jurisdiction, makes sure that a repeat of what happened 2 days back that does not happen again. So pending that, pending a larger security review of the diplomatic corps and the establishments in New Delhi, in the Chanakpuri diplomatic enclave,
right.
A beginning has been made in terms of making security around these establishments little less intrusive, less obtrusive, and less visible. And as part of that, we are getting those pictures.
Right. Abhishek, we are also being joined by Madhav Nalapat, strategic analyst and vice chairman, Manipal Advanced Research Group, joining us here in Republic TV. Your first reaction coming in, because the Ministry of External Affairs has clearly said they lost a protest with the UK, saying it's unacceptable the indifference of the UK government to the security of Indian diplomatic premises and the personnel in the UK. And after that, we are seeing that India is reviewing the security for UK diplomats.
I'd like to point out that in multiple instances of this kind of mob attack, the local police basically sided with the protesters in the UK, in the US, in Canada. And supposing the protesters blocked, for example, the entry of certain people. For example, some houses of worship, they block entry of certain people, of a particular faith to houses of worship. This is against their local law. It's against US law. It's against UK law. It's against Canadian law. But the local police become outlaws or side with the outlaws. Quite frankly, what is happening is extraordinary. And at the same time, you have this huge talk about human rights. And human rights for whom? For people who are involved in mayhem, terror, killing, abduction. So in my personal view, in view of the fact that US, Canada, UK, they have such an expansive view of human rights. And in other words, they believe every human should have the right to do whatever he or she wants. I don't see any reason for security in any of these high commissions and embassies. After all, as many times has happened, their own police have advised, go to these protesters and request them. And when some unfortunate individuals obeyed that advice of the local police, the protesters beat them up. And then the police just stood there. So quite frankly, I'm sure the diplomats in India, the American, the British, the Canadian, they will be very much able to handle this kind of situation. So I don't see any reason why the state should provide security to them. I think the same level of security and the same metrics and operational issues that are valid in these three countries should be made applicable to their diplomatic missions in India as well.
All right. Well, thank you, Professor Madhav Nanapal, strategic analyst and Vice Chairman, Manipal Advanced Research Group, for joining us here on Republic TV. And I just want to go across to my colleague in the Mumbai studios, Samiksha, who's also joining us right now. Samiksha, is a very strong message to the UK, where we are seeing that the security of the UK High Commission has been greatly reduced. Additional security courtesy has been withdrawn, and India has made it very, very clear that these kind of incidents will not be tolerated at all. Samiksha.
Well, that's right, Shivangi, and very strong message, of course, like you mentioned, that's coming from India. India reviewing the security for the UK diplomats. This, of course, the visuals there on your screens of the security of the diplomat that has been reduced. Let's go across to Ratan Sharda, who's also joining us. If I can get your response, how do you read into this? India, of course, sending out a very strong message with the security of the UK High Commission that has now been reduced following what we saw happened in UK.
See, love and affection cannot be one way. Respect cannot be one way. And India is no more the timid nation it used to be. It answers back when it is threatened, when it is not treated well. And this behavior of the UK police in London was highly condemnable. It was shameful that they just stood by and saw this insult of the tricolour and also of the commission itself. So naturally, India had to react. It has reacted with restraint, but message is clear. I think the foreign powers, the so-called Commonwealth, etc., should know that common is wealth only when everybody behaves in a common manner. You cannot behave like a colonial power anymore, nor can you treat your other members of the global community in a very downright manner.
And Mr. Sharda, do you think that a strong response, a sharp response should come in from the UK government also? Because this raises a lot of questions as to how did this really happen? Khalistani is there on a rampage and pulling down the Indian flag, and this happening just outside the Indian High Commission in London.
Naturally, I said that for the police to stay idle and see what's happening in front of the Indian nation itself, and when they already knew this is happening, it's not possible that this particular country did not have notion what's happening with the Khalistani supporters. But still keeping quiet, not taking action, shows that either the police has lost its mojo, it has lost its intelligence strength, or they are careless. In both cases, they have to wake up. India will take care of its own, but they have to wake up.
All right, Mr. Sharda, just stay with us. Let's go across to our senior executive editor, Abhishek Kapoor, who continues to stay with us. Abhishek, your quick reading to what has transpired back home. And do you think a lot of questions need to be answered by the UK government also at this stage?
Samiksha, so a couple of points. This is sourceless information coming. Now, this review of security of diplomatic establishments in the diplomatic enclave in New Delhi was done in the light of the episodes that have panned out over the last couple of months, in fact, but particularly what happened in the United Kingdom, in London, a couple of days back. So the review made our agencies understand or realize that while our diplomatic personnel are at a considerable threat or a considerable threat perception goes around our diplomatic teams in the Western capitals, particularly in Europe, because of these forces, including from Khalistani separatist forces to, Kashmiri terrorist forces and the Pakistani deep state. That kind of security threat perception is not there around their diplomats and their establishments here in New Delhi. So while we have, for example, in the case of London, few days before the Khalistani people, these elements came in and compromised security, including injuries to two members of the diplomatic team there in London. Adequate information was given to the security agencies there, to either the London Metropolitan Police or Scotland Yard, whichever. And yet that episode was allowed to happen. So while the argument on their side is they believe in less visible security and that they believe in freedom of expression, these teams here in New Delhi continue to enjoy considerable amount of increased security despite threat perception not being there. So that review has been done, as part of which, beginning with the United Kingdom, we have seen these pictures of the barricades, for example, being removed. So there would be an element of quid pro quo now, an element of reciprocity now in terms of making the security arrangements around the diplomatic teams here in Chanakyapuri diplomatic enclave, again, similarly less visible, less intrusive, and more in line with what our diplomats, for example, get in those capitals.
Yes. Abhishek, just a quick follow-up question. Would you say that diplomatically the talks haven't transpired to the best of interest, which is a result we are seeing the security of UK High Commission having been reduced?
Well, I'm sure there is a communication happening, and both at the level of the missions here and then, of course, at the larger level of governments where the MEA speaks to their counterparts in these capitals. So that's going to happen. But then, given the fact that this was more a courteous extending courtesy, sometimes not reciprocated, but still we sort of carried with it. So that element of reciprocity now effectively has been brought in with this review that has been put in place, Samiksha. And as I said, this is beginning with the United Kingdom, but obviously it will go on to other embassies and high commissions in the diplomatic enclave area.
All right, Abhishek, thank you for sharing your insights with us. So that's the latest that's coming in with the security of the UK High Commission having been reduced back home. This, of course, comes a day after we saw how the Khalistanis went on a rampage outside the Indian High Commission in London.